everyone, thanks for joining me today for my breakdown and review of His Dark Materials Season 2, Episode 6 entitled Malice. Before I get into it, please take a moment to smash that like and hit that subscribe button and notification bell. And as with the previous episodes, this is a breakdown review, so heavy spoilers are ahead. The penultimate episode of Season 2 unpacked a lot of plot points, all surrounding the city of Cittàgazze, from Lyra and Will meeting up with the witches, to Mary exploring the city, to Boreal and Mrs. Coulter going there as well, and Mrs. Coulter coming face to face with the specters, Joffrey and Lee Scoresby going through the portal, with the Magisterium hot on their trail. There is a lot to go through, so let's break it down. Episode 6 begins with Serafina and Ruta speaking about the new world they've come to and showing us a group of angels for the first time. We don't get to see much, but it was really exciting to get a glimpse of these beings that will be very heavily involved in the next season. Ruta decides to follow the angels to Azrael, and Serafina goes after Lyra. Will's wound from the subtle knife is getting worse, and he's having fever dreams and getting weaker. While Lyra and Pan sweetly care for him, they are attacked by Angelica, Paula, and a gang of kids they brought with them to kill Will and Lyra for taking the knife from Tullio, believing that it would have protected them and their adults in the hills who run away from the city. Will is unable to cut a window quickly due to the pain he's experiencing, but thankfully they are rescued by the timely arrival of Serafina Pekkala. We finally catch up with Joffrey and Lee Scoresby, who head into the anomaly. As they head for Cittàgazze, Joffrey explains that he's gone through a lot on his journey, including dealing with the witches, which is an important note in the books that they subtly inserted in this dialogue. They speak more about his shamanic powers as well, which we will get to see more of later in the episode. The episode gets a little slow as it shows the witches and the children journey through the mountain as they leave Cittàgazze because of the murderous children and the specters that the witches are vulnerable to. Serafina checks Will's wounds and tells him that he has no ordinary wound and needs a spell to try and heal it, and they begin to look for herbs for the spell. She also asks him about the knife, which Will is extremely protective of and needs convincing from Lyra to tell Serafina anything. I really like how untrusting Will was in this episode. This is exactly what he's like in the books, unlike his portrayal in the first episode of the season where he was shown to be so quick to trust Lyra as opposed to this untrusting and hardened young boy. He explains this more himself to Lyra as he tells her about being bullied in the episode in a great scene of them sitting together, exhibiting the show's knack for detail and character development once again. We catch up with Mary in Cittàgazze using I Ching to speak with us, which is guiding her to what she needs to be doing next, and she's being watched by Angelica and Paolo, who don't understand why she's not affected by the specters, the reason being that she's being protected by an angel, which we get a glimpse of in another really cool shot. As I expected, the showrunners do sprinkle in some very small parts of the third book, The Amber Spyglass, into this season because Mary's storyline ends right after she makes it to Cittàgazze in the subtle knife, and we don't see her again until the events of the Amber Spyglass. We're also not introduced to the angels until that book. Later in the episode, Mary is finally confronted by Angelica and Paula, who are just very messed up young children starved for adult companionship, and we see that displayed in Paula asking Mary for a hug. And they tell her about the specters, which she has no idea about, and being the kind and loving person that she is, she offers to take them to the village where their adults have gone, and thus Mary begins her journey outside the city as well. Continuing their passage through the mountain, the witches want to take Lyra and Will back with them to their world, where Serafina says she'll be able to protect Lyra better, and that they will have more powerful herbs there to help Will with. Lyra is very concerned for Will's health, which is deteriorating as he keeps bleeding from his wound. Untrusting of the witches, Will asks Lyra to ask the alethiometer what they should do and where his father is, to which it responds that he is in this world. Lyra explains to Serafina that after losing Roger, she stopped trusting the alethiometer, but when she lost it, she realized that it was a part of her, and because it told her to help Will find his father, that's what she will do. Serafina says that her job is to protect her, so if that means to protect Will too, that's what they will do, even though they are in grave danger of the specters here. But before they can find Will's father, they need to stop Will's wound from bleeding, so they do the spell on him. After, Serafina asks Lyra where the alethiometer says Will's father is, to which it responds up. Keep going up. She tells Lyra to stay close to Will for it will be cold, and she and Pan cuddle up near Will, which was really sweet, again showing how protective Lyra is of Will and that she feels safe next to him. The episode begins to pick up as we catch up with Boreal and Mrs. Coulter, who are in the city looking for Will and Lyra. Boreal is scared of the specters and very concerned about being there. They come across a man that was gotten by the specters, and Mrs. Coulter is fascinated by him. Boreal says he believes the specters severed their victims, but Mrs. Coulter believes they do much more than that and wants to learn from it. After trying to humanize her in the last episode, the pendulum swings all the way back with her psychoness as she finally meets these specters and is able to cut herself off from her demon and her humanity, using what she claims is extreme self-control, and ends up being able to control the specters. That scene was really cool. I think Mrs. Coulter is able to do this not only because of her extreme self-control over her demon, but also because you need extreme lack of empathy to be able to cut children, which she has been doing for a very long time. And she also showed herself to be capable of torture when she tortured the witch in episode 1, so we know her to be very capable of being inhuman. As Mrs. Coulter is making friends with specters, Joffrey and Lee finally make it to the city and are flying overhead but decide not to land there, as Joffrey tells Lee that the knife is no longer there if the tower is being surrounded by the specters, and tells him to go higher for they have to find the bearer if they want to protect Lyra and everyone else. Later, Mrs. Coulter explains to Boreal how she cut herself off from her humanity to be able to control the specters as they celebrate her newfound power, and he confesses his love to her once again and tells her that he believes her to be his equal. But he's not her equal, and she tells him that as she poisons and kills him. So long, Boreal. Later, as she sits there with his dead body, she displays her dark side once again as she burns herself with a candle, which hurts the monkey, telling him strength is salvation. Poor monkey. Feeling a bit better after the witch's spell ceremony and having been told of the prophecy of how he has to protect Lyra by Serafina and Kaisa, the group are attacked by specters, which Will wards off with the knife. But is he too late to save the witch that was being consumed? Meanwhile, the Magisterium have been putting their own plans into motion as the Cardinal has received new information about the alethiometer via Frau Pavel, who tells him of Mrs. Coulter and Lyra's whereabouts and the role Lyra plays in everything. The Cardinal decides to send troops after the child, and they make their way to the anomaly, and they catch up with Lee Scoresby and Joffrey, who uses his shaman powers to slow them down by creating a thunderstorm and summons a massive flock of birds to bring down 2 of the Magisterium ships, but not before they are shot by a single bullet to the gas canister, which causes them to come crashing down into the mountains, and thus ends episode 6. No! We have to wait till the season finale to find out what happens. What did you think of the episode? And if you enjoyed this video, please be sure to hit that like button and leave a comment. Next week, I'll be covering the season finale, so be sure to hit that subscribe button and notification bell if you haven't done so already, so you're notified when the video drops. Thanks so much for tuning in, everyone. Till next week, bye!